design, you want to utilize responsive design with WordPress, use a responsive framework. It's really gonna assist you tremendously in your learning curve. So that's the first thing, utilize a responsive framework. So what are the best choices when it comes to WordPress frameworks? Well, this is only my opinion. There's a lot of frameworks out there. So this is just totally my opinion. But at the present, and some people would criticize me for the last one, but I do think it is a framework. To me, there's three main contenders when it comes to WordPress frameworks that are responsive. And that's Bootstrap, that's Foundation, and the Genesis framework. I'm not going to cover Bootstrap, not because there's anything wrong with it, but it's not one that I have studied or utilised at all. So I'm not going to deal with Bootstrap. The two I'm going to talk about is Foundation and the Genesis framework. And in truth, most of my experience over the past 3 months and it comes from a very respected source, and it seems very, very popular. So, what is the basis of a framework? Well, it's to do with grids, and grids are a way that you can quickly develop for different screen resolutions. So in the framework, they will have a set of classes with class names that specifically relate to different columns. So you will have a class name that will produce a container that's 3 columns wide, or a container that's 12 columns wide. And you can quickly sketch out a page layout and know that, and utilize the media queries so that something that would be suitable on a screen resolution for our iPhone would be 3 columns, and a page layout that would be suitable for a normal resolution of a desktop would be 12 columns. But you need to learn how the framework works, and it has specific naming. Each framework has specific naming conventions, right? But the basics of it are, and why it makes development much more quicker, is that these column layouts have been tested in different browsers. So you know, if you keep to the structure of the framework, that there's a good chance that it will work in all the browsers that it's been tested in. So you're not going to have to be so worried that it's going to break down in the most popular browsers, right? So, the other thing that frameworks provide, but I don't think Genesis is so good on providing, in your mobile world, you have different navigation systems that are suitable for iPhones and tablets rather than desktop. And with Bootstrap and Foundation, they have inbuilt navigation systems that will adapt, that will be available. They've been all pre-coded, that are more suitable for the iPhone or the Android. And they also have your main navigation will be adapted to a tablet. And the stacking and reordering of columns has all been worked out. So this is what a framework provides. All that has been worked out for you, rather than you. And as you work with the framework, you become aware of how that framework works. So you can then, you have predefined knowledge about how to use that framework with a design that you're thinking of utilising, and you have to be aware that pixel perfect design is finished now. It was always, I always cringed at that anyway. But being that your design is going to be shown on multiple devices, the best that a Photoshop or a Fireworks mockup can do is give an impression of what a design would, the key elements of that design would look like. But the idea that it's going to look like that on most devices is not actual, right? So, and like I say, two of the most popular navigation systems for mobile devices are the toggle menu and the off-canvas menu. So it slides in and out. You see it on a lot of websites. And these kind of navigation systems are built in to a framework. So you know the whole code is those modules have been tested, and as long as you know how to get those modules into your design, you know that they're going to work pretty effectively. One of the criticisms of frameworks, and it is a true criticism, is a lot of frameworks, you do have a lot of additional code that you have to include. And Foundation, I've not utilised Bootstrap, so I can't remark, but Foundation, when you're downloading Foundation, you can exclude certain modules that you don't think you're going to utilise. But the class structure can still be complicated. There's a balance though, and you can only start to learn that by utilising it. Right? The other thing frameworks help with is there's patterns of usage that people commonly will be attracted to certain parts of the screen depending on the screen resolution of the device. So there's certain sweet points of the screen that people, and that is being scientifically proven on screen resolutions, and frameworks take this into account in design patterns that they provide. So that's another good feature of frameworks when it comes to responsive design. So, what are the benefits? You get design mobile first. You get small, medium, large, 12-column ridge rapid prototyping. As you get to utilise Foundation, you can. There is a learning curve initially, but as you get to learn how to utilise it, it really accelerates your prototyping and how quickly you can build an effective responsive site from the ground up utilising WordPress. So like I said, you have a library of mobile visible elements that you can rapidly include in the design. That would put that, if you're doing it by hand, no matter how experienced you were, it would take quite a lot of time. And then you would have the testing element as well. Mobile navigation, toggle off canvas, front icon library, you know, icons that are actually fonts. They provide a whole library that's included in powerful jQuery, Zeppo libraries, and also it also utilises Sass. I'm not going to go into tonight what Sass is. I don't particularly like Sass or less. I still don't utilise those two technologies. I think for very, very large projects that are applications or very large websites, I think have their purpose. But I think for the smaller to medium-sized projects, I think it's become very popular because the kind of stars in web design utilise it. But that's my opinion. So, but it's definitely got its place depending on the size of the project. If you're going to be employed by a large agency, one of them would be Noble Studios. They would expect you to be able to code in Sass. If you're looking for employment with an agency and it's a large agency, they would expect you to be up to speed either in Sass or less. All right? But I've got no intention to work for Noble Studios, so I don't care. One of the problems with Foundations when you're trying to install it on your Mac is it requires these additional products. And it's Ruby is only installed on your Mac. Actually installing Ruby on your Windows is actually easier than it's pre-installed on your Mac, but it might be an out-to-date version. And actually, you've got to go into the command line of the Mac to install the latest version. But as long as you look up the command line syntax on Google, it's not that hard. But on a Windows, it's just an executional file. And then you need Node.js, and Compass is a pre-compiler for Sass, basically. And it's a free bit of free software, you don't have to pay for it, but you do have to set it up. So when people are thinking of utilising Foundation, this is one of the barriers, because especially if they're from a design background, they think, we've got to install all this stuff, what the hell is all this? But there's plenty of tutorials and other on the Foundation website that will guide you through installing this. But there is an alternative, and the alternative is what I utilise. I utilise a theme called Revy. I call it Rev. How would you pronounce that? He's asleep. I utilise this theme that has Foundation inbuilt into it. And it's a very basic theme, and the code is excellent, and it has the Foundation framework already built into it, and it has really very good documentation. And this is where I started. I started learning Foundation by utilising this theme. If I'm going to do a true custom design, I would start here and I would adapt my custom design, my WordPress custom theme, utilising this basic starter theme, which is much more than some of the other starter themes that are available. But it's not so complicated in styles that it can't be utilised as a starter fee. There's a balance. So this is what I utilise. And if you're trying to learn foundation with WordPress, I would highly recommend. But there are a lot of other kind of foundation starter themes out there. This is only my personal preference, right? So the next one is the Genesis framework from WrodPress. It is extremely popular framework in the WordPress development community. It's well coded and well supported. It's a paid product supported by one of the largest theme shops in the WordPress industry that powers over 120,000 websites. WordPress is one of the oldest theme shops. It's highly respected theme shop, and it's got a high reputation. You can update the theme without losing your customization because it's designed to be utilised with a child theme. It's inexpensive. It's around just slightly under $60 to buy the framework. You don't get any of WordPress features for that. You just get the basic framework. And either you have to pay for some of the WordPress. There's a lot of third-party. It has the plugin. Once you know how the framework, you can build full custom designs very quickly, and you can. That's what a lot of developers. It has its own way of doing things. There's a lot of documentation on the website, but you don't have to be like Dylan, top end. I'm a theme person. I don't want to become a plugin developer, and I certainly don't build applications in WordPress. I've always been interested in business, design, and WordPress I think is the most. I'm just a WordPress freak. I love WordPress, and I think I'm just interested in the front end, and I've learned PHP to a certain level just to help me build a theme, basically. But you do have to know a certain amount of PHP to then go, I think, to go on to the Genesis framework. I think if you didn't know any basic PHP and just jumped into it, I think it's going to be a bit confusing because the way they do it is aimed at the kind of medium to advanced PHP person. But that's just my opinion, right? That's what I'd say. But if you've got a bit of PHP knowledge, you've gone through, you've given it a go as a designer, you know the basics. I think with about 2-3 months of really getting stuck into it, I think you'll be up to speed. I don't think it's that terrible, but be aware you're not going to learn this in a weekend, right? And that's the end of the presentation. Basically, I thought I would get more techie and really try and provide some idea about 2 frameworks that are really popular in the WordPress development community and generally in the WordPress community. And I think if you chose either Foundation or Genesis, you're not going to be disappointed. I think they're 2 very solid WordPress frameworks with a lot of support out there.
Jonathan, we have Mike coming up next.
Sorry?
What's the schedule of that session?
Sorry?
What's the rest of the schedule here?
But Mike's going to do his bit.
I had like 5 minutes.
But I thought we'd get some questions, answer some questions if anybody.
I wanted to show them that other, actually show them our site and the resources on the notes. Some of the things that you talked about.
Yeah, sure.
I was going to show you what we're doing on the side. I'm more the WordPress, not WordPress, but I'm more the podcast guy and the media guy, the Train Learn Media and Hangouts. And if anyone wants to, I can just talk.
Oh.
If anybody wants, gotta get you. Where's your browser?
Sorry?
Over over here. Right here, I found it.
What's that?
I found your browser. You just took it out. If anyone wants, see, WP Tonic, Jonathan built this site.
Chrome doesn't work very well on my machine.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I have Chrome up. I'm so used to Chrome.
Might be waiting for 16. I can never get Chrome to work on my Mac, even if it uses the GPUs. But if you don't get it to work, it just get upgraded to Maverick. Never know that. So, please, got any questions?
Yeah, go ahead and talk.
Pardon? Yes.
What's the difference between adaptive, reactive?
Don't really know. Well, what do you say?
Yeah, I asked the question, but he didn't answer.
I know you did. You're just being a smart aleck, Mike, but I don't know it. I didn't know, but it's out of my brain.
The reason I brought it up is the responsive sites, they all kind of have the same feel to them, where they will change depending on the device. But a reactive and adaptive site actually happen on the server side. Right, so it's actually programming that is detecting the device, what device it is, and actually you can sending back a site.
Yeah, I think, would it be fair to say that it's not fully, obviously, but it's a kind of, it's in between responsive and mobile, it's a kind of hybrid.
Yes.
Because a fully mobile site, there's still a lot of people doing that, because I think in some circumstances it's the right solution, isn't it, Mike? Would you agree with that? A mobile site is a totally separate site that has been developed for phones and tablets. It's like a second website, but it's still, and I think what Mike's talking about is this hybrid where he's really totally right. We're kind of, I think utilising a grid system properly reduces what you say, because you kind of, it's done for money. Everything comes down to money in the end, unfortunately. Responsive is only a technology, but to make the site really responsive, you need something. You're supposed to work out what the data is on the small screen, and then work out. The kind of clients I work with in the Reno area, they can just about afford to hire somebody to do the website. So we work from the big size and we work down. And I do my best with the data. So it has what they call breakpoints, and you see that it gets to a certain breakpoint, suddenly everything moves. Well, that's not really, it should work a bit better than that. But you find the reason why that's happening is the cost. You know, all the working out, watch the frame, all the wire framing, the working out, that's not being paid for, because the person was prepared to pay for it, or they didn't have the money, or that's what you get. It's just like, there, what do you think on?
So what was the difference between?
It's terrible with them. Yeah, God, no, I don't know. Come on, answer seriously. What do you think?
As far as
Well, you know, that's why you get, you know, you said you get that kind of look with a response. You know, I think all the pre-working out hasn't been done, has it?
yeah, you definitely want to think about it and really pay attention to what your potential user wants to accomplish. And if it's different from mobile to tablet to desktop, you really want to kind of think that through and even do some testing. You know,
But that takes time and money, doesn't it?
It does, but you can do it on the cheap. I mean, if it's your own personal site, you can just hand somebody a phone and say, hey, can you do X, right? And somebody that's never seen your site, see what happens, right? And it's amazing. You can get some pretty good information on what's going on. Especially, you know, you get your head so into it that you think it's the right way, that you hand it to somebody and they use something completely different. So
what you're saying is that for a desktop, if you have a regular like a site that's for desktop users, really, if you want to be effective in the mobile world, you need a site, essentially.
No.
Is that what we're saying?
No. You want to just think through the way the site's going to look on mobile. What responsive is going to do is it's going to scale down and be able to utilize on all devices.
Okay.
Right? But when it scales down, you can actually hide elements, change elements, right? Kind of make it more focused. And I always go back to car dealers, right? Because that's what we do. But if it scales down, what we do is go right to the big thumb buttons. Right, because if somebody is going to a car dealership, we just know that 70% of the people go to it call. So you want a big button that says call, right? So that they don't have to think about it. Even if they're driving, they can just hit call or location, right? And then down below, we have all the same
And
functions.
you build that in on your back end of your regular WordPress site, on your dashboard?
Yes. Yeah, it's all built into. It's all built in. I'll show you the site. Actually, is your site responsive? Kind of scale down the site.
It's not. I never bothered to spree it up. I've got to do that. So what are you going to do?
Real fast, responsive. First of all, this is dynamic, so you know. These are my baby sites. This is Genesis with dynamic, which we talked about earlier. This is the basic theme. It's very fast. My computer flies because I've got it working with Chrome really well. And Jonathan never uses Chrome, so it doesn't have anything cached. But my thing flies. So this is my daily podcast hooked in with, you see what this is? It actually comes out fairly well. This is, I'll show you Jonathan's on my site. This was done yesterday in here, and what we're doing it right here too, and this came out super well. This is a hangout that we're doing here.
It says, Coach, you're now on.
So, oops.
Flash.
Why did that come out? Jonathan, I don't know your computer.
Coach Chris, we're going to call you Coach Flash. Oh, it's easy to just say, I know it's
Jonathan.
Chris. It's easier to remember.
Just tap in there.
Mine doesn't do
Just
that.
for the record,
There it
it's
goes.
Coach Flash.
So, I mean, that's just an idea. This goes along with the podcast. It's the example behind the scenes of me making a podcast over here in this room. But the quality is really coming up fast, and it's the future. And I'm going to turn this off. But if anybody wants to work with the group here, is I try to do a Google Hangout on a Monday afternoon or Monday evening. If anyone wants to join in and talk back and forth about any one issue and learn how to use Google Hangouts. So I just wanted to show you Google Hangouts. And this, again, this is Genesis Dynamic. I use this as my backside for people getting interviewed. They'll go on these sites and they'll just set up interviews. I did 4 interviews today across the United States and the world. But this is what I wanted to show. Is Jonathan is on my site. There's actually some very, very good WordPress tools in here. So this is our last podcast. You'll see we have a featured plugin which we go into detail, and you can hit right here and get to the plugin. You can snap it. I do a little business concept of how you might do a business or look at a business to run. And we talk about responsive design. And we did a little case of what would you do for $2,000 to market your small business with WordPress or with any kind. Where would you spend $2,000 if I had a little restaurant downtown Reno? And not many, instead of spending it on the paper, if you spent that $2,000 towards social networking, you'd probably get a better response, especially in a tourist town. So that's what the show was here. And I'm going to go back to the front page, show the front page. But there's 5 shows now. Every Monday we'll launch a new show. We have really famous guy coming up tomorrow.
Also, if you listen to any WordPress podcasts, you're probably aware of the Matt reports, and Matt is going to be one of our guests. He's going to be our guest tomorrow.
Yeah.
So he's a friend of mine. So he was very gracious to They're great. And then in September we got the WordPress chick. We got Kim. She's very well known as well. She's going to be one of our guests as well. So we're trying to get Reno more aware, WordPress people more aware of Reno. Aren't we, Bill?
Yeah. And then just finish up this front page. Really go and discover it yourself. My computer flies. I use Chrome all the time, and it uploads enough, so it flies through this. In fact, if we would have done this interview using my computer tied in with here, I could have put up all the slides and created something like this, because I can put slides up while we're talking. I can move slides back and forth. So ideally, next time we use mine and produce something like this, so you can see this class and see the slides, and it's packaged like this. And my sound, if you notice, the sound is all pretty good. I'm trying to turn up the sound, but every time I hit sound on his computer, it brings in some other stuff.
So, anyway, without further ado, we're going to start the show.
Right. Thanks,
That's how it works.
Over to Mike.
I just think this is a good tool. I wish I'd used this computer for a presentation, and we could have captured. Mike, if you want 2 seconds, can I run it with this computer? And we can actually get your slides on and make a separate little presentation. Or I can log on through your computer. It's just Google Plus. It won't affect anything. So we're live right now and recording. It's a pretty amazing tool. And then I can put the slides up while you talk, and people can see the presentation, and they'll be able to re-see it. Or I can. Is this a web-based?
Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of ad-lib it. I don't have any slides. So.
But even if they could see the web-based stuff here, if I hook in, you could run it. Sure. So let's do that.
Well, it's going to have to be on my computer. So.
Okay, let me log on.